Yo, Roland really sent me some 808 themed shoes. And these mugs are dope. Too bad I can only wear them in the house though. Yo, what's up fam? And today we're rocking with a new app from AudioKit's limited edition series of apps. And this one is called the Sub Bass 808. So we're going to get into it and show you how it works and how you can use it in your workflow. Let's check it out. Let's go! Alright, so I'm rocking with this inside of Beatmaker 3, and this is actually an audio unit. So it is an AUV3 plugin, which is one of my favorite features of the joint. So before we get started, Sub Bass 808 is actually a synth bass, one of the first synth bass 808 apps on the market for iOS. And to tell you the truth, for me in my workflow, this has been a game changer because I use 808 samples all the time. And I'll get into why I prefer this over an 808 sample kit any day. So I'm rocking with this inside of Beatmaker 3, and if we get into the main page here from the audio units plugin window, we can see the master volume, which is of course self-explanatory. It controls the volume of your instrument. Also, you have the length, which controls how long it sustains as you hold that down. And it also controls the intensity of how long that note is sustained. Next, we have the modulation controls. You have the modulation depth and the timing of that modulation depth. So with the modulation depth controls is some of the pitch and how fast you'll hear that initial kick or attack on that modulation. And then the timing on that, it just determines how fast it takes for that modulation to drop. So not only do you have full control over the modulation and the timing of that, you actually have control over the glide time, how long it takes for one note to glide into the next. So I thought that was pretty dope, especially for the type of music that I make. I glide my 808s all the time, and I hate having to go in and set those parameters every time I bring a new 808 sample in. And keep in mind that all of these parameters are fully automatable. So you can play with the automation and how these parameters work inside your composition real time, and it'll work just like that without having to add any extra effects. Speaking of effects, you actually have built-in distortion effects. So you can have the distortion switch here. So I can toggle that on and off. And you can see that it gives that body a little bit more voice, a little bit more distortion on, you know, how that is being played out. Also, if you play with the distortion levels, you can hear a difference in that body of that bass and how it's articulating through that wave. So what's next on this particular page is the super and sustain toggle that you can toggle on and off. And this just controls the way that the 808 plays. So if we toggle that to super, so it plays a little bit more like an actual synthesizer as opposed to a 808 kick. So that just makes the glide time and the polyphony behave a little bit differently than what you would using a sustained note playing in between. Just like that. Also, one of my favorite things on this page is the source algorithm. The source algorithm actually controls the whole wave file, the whole wave pattern of how your 808 will be voiced or how your bass will be voiced. So you have different algorithms like, you know, preset FM operators. And then you have a pulse. You have a saw wave, sine, square waves, triangle, and then your basic FM operator presets. And like I said, all these source algorithms actually give each individual wave pattern its own voice and its own articulation on how your 808 will be played and performed. And since this is a synthesizer-based sub-style instrument, it does give you the ability to play these as like a regular synthesizer bass. So if we toggle this back down to sustain, it gives a little bit more attack on that modulation depth. So you can kind of almost hear it sound like a almost like a kick drum on that attack. Turn the modulation up a little bit and you can hear that. You can hear that punch through a little bit more. Let's move on to the next tab. Let's tap more. So here's where you'll find the fine tuning, and you can fine tune this fine tune your 808 to reach the exact tuning, the exact key that you need it to be in. So next you have the actual envelopes that govern the actual attack and the release. Once again, I feel like this is self-explanatory. These are extremely intuitive. So the attack will do what the attack does. It lets you determine when and how long it'll take for that initial press, that key trigger. So the higher up the attack, you can hear it's like it has like a swelling effect. And then of course we have the release. So you can see that when I'm tapping down on the key, and then when I bring the release up, it takes a longer time for that sustained note to fade out. And then you probably notice some of the bit rates down here. So you can set the lo-fi bit depth down here with these different profiles, and you can set it from 16 bits to all the way down to 6 bits. And every profile again gives it a different warmth, a different feel, a different voice. And then once again we have some more built-in distortion toggle buttons here, so we can control the bit rate and how much is going to crush. We can control how much that bit rate has the crush effect on that 808 or on that sub. And then next you'll notice that we have a filter. And if you know how filters work, you can definitely get some really cool vibes with this filter effect. And then we can change the resonance. And then last but not least, we have another limiter that we can go ahead and toggle on from smash to actually limit it. So you can already see how intuitive this is and how you can actually take out a lot of the guesswork as to finding out which parameters do what for your 808s. You can actually access it all right here. With a minimalistic synth-based approach to tuning and toning your 808s, you'll always have some dope 808s. So that was just a quick taste of the sub-bass 808 synth app from AudioKit. Like I said, this is a limited edition and it only costs $2.99 to download to your iPads or on your iPhones. Again, like I said, this is from AudioKit's newest series of limited edition apps. And after speaking with some of the developers from AudioKit, I found out that this was actually inspired by some of the vintage synths, like let's just say Jupiter 8. Like, did you know that there were only about maybe 3,000 of those units? The Jupiter 8, there were only like 3,000 of those made and sold ever in the world. So just having one of those is like a rare vintage piece of workflow that not many other people will have access to. And that's really why I'm looking forward to this new AudioKit's limited edition series of apps that only certain people can have access to. This is a really dope idea. And with apps like this, sub-bass 808 has definitely changed my workflow over the past couple of weeks, especially when I'm bringing samples in to try to manipulate 808s and try to manipulate a sample that's already predetermined for me. This sub-bass 808 apps lets me edit the wavetables, lets me change the source algorithms, lets me determine the glide time, it lets me manipulate the envelopes for attack and release, and it also has all-in-one built-in distortion effect. So in this case, I might not even have to run any external audio effects to bring down my CPU usage, or even trying to spend time to figure out the science behind getting the 808 to sit just right in this particular beat or that particular beat. It's all editable right there in that app. And the dope thing about it is you can actually save your presets. And like I said, some of my presets are already in there, but you can actually save your own presets and always have your 808s in your pocket. Dope stuff. I'm BrandonRico, and this has been my review of the sub-bass 808 app by AudioKit. Peace.